what is FieldHawk? FieldHawk is InHance Software's electronic work order application. Before FieldHawk, we had a product called iRemote, and some of you may be currently using iRemote. We have some customers currently transitioning from iRemote to FieldHawk, and FieldHawk is the new generation of software that is taking iRemote's place. Development is no longer actively, fixing bugs or developing for iRemote. So we do encourage anyone that's on it still to upgrade to FieldHawk. FieldHawk seamlessly integrates with Impressa, or ICIS, you may know it as. We started calling ICIS, we changed the name at version 4.0 to Impressa. So you may hear us refer to either one. So whether or not you're using iRemote or FieldHawk, if you're not using any of those products, you're probably still using the work order maintenance screen, and you print out your work orders manually. FieldHawk is meant to streamline that whole process where either, I don't know if you can totally replace printing out all of your work orders, but you can significantly reduce the number of work orders that you print weekly. A lot of our customers, it's hundreds that they print weekly and manually assign to their techs. So FieldHawk is meant to take the place of that process where you can electronically assign them right to the techs. Just a few facts about FieldHawk. It's currently designed to run on Android version 5.0 and above. At this time, it only runs on Android tablets. There's not a version for the PC, and there's not a version for iPads. We get that question a lot. What about iOS support for iPads? Development has that in the plans for the future, but as of right now, there is no set timeline for that. I'm just going to go ahead and go right into a demonstration of FieldHawk so that you can see the product. So in Impressa here, and the screen should look the same for you if you're still in ICIS. Obviously, if you're still on IUS, the older InHance product, it'll look a little different, but it would be a similar process. So the office staff inside of the work order maintenance screen, whether you come in here and manually create the work orders or they're automatically generated maybe through lock services or move-ins, move-outs, whatever the process, the work orders get generated. And I'm going to go ahead and just create one test work order for us here. Let's do lock meter. Okay, right here you see some options. You can either, well, I don't really have, the only work group I have set up right now is general. But you can assign the work order to a work group. You can assign it directly to an employee, and I'm going to go ahead and do that here. I'm using my test, JH test. And this is key for FieldHawk. Under availability, you'll see three options, both field and office. So you'll want to set it to both, which allows the work order to appear in FieldHawk and in the office. That way both of you will have access to it. just going to randomly pick a location here, make sure it has a customer. One thing you do have to have on your work order for it to appear in FieldHawk is location. I've had a few calls. They would call in and say, hey, I made these work orders, but they're not appearing in FieldHawk. And it turns out they didn't have a location assigned because it was like a hydrant maintenance or something like that. So it wasn't an exact address that they had for it. So let's go ahead and save our work order. Okay. So from the office side, that's pretty standard. That's what everyone does. Now I'm going to carry you to this. On the Android tablet, I'm using the emulator here on my desktop. It's the only way I can show it to you live. So on the tablet, the text will see FieldHawk. They open it up. So in the upper right-hand corner of the screen is connectivity icon. When you see two gray connectors, it means it's connected to the database and it's logged into the database. If you click on the connector, you can see these settings, and generally these are settings you want to put in there one time and that's it. So once this is in here and working, you don't have to mess with this ever again, unless we're doing some troubleshooting or something like that. Okay, so over on the left, you've got your main menu. It's a pretty simple menu. There's only 6 options on it. We're going to go to work order availability. And this is where the techs will come into every day and see what's available to them. Let's go back to Impreza here. My work order that I just created is 31764. And we can see it here, 31764. Now, let me jump back to Impreza here. When I assigned it to the employee here, all that does in FieldHawk is flags it in this assigned queue. It does not actually put it into that tech's work order queue. The tech still has to come in to the work order availability screen, accept the work order, and submit it to his work queue. You do have to hit the refresh button after each transaction. It doesn't auto refresh, so you do have to hit refresh. Now, just while we're on the screen, I'll just point out a few of the features here real quick. If you press and hold on any of the column headers, you'll see some options here. You can group by certain columns. The column chooser, you may not want to see certain columns up there. We can add the priority in there, but the more columns you add in there, the more cluttered it's going to look. So any changes you make to that, come up here and you'll want to click Save Layout if you want to see that every time you come in. So once again, if we click the 3 dots up in the upper right-hand corner, you've got your options for the date range that you want to see. You cannot put in a custom range, say from January 18th through January 31st. We don't have the option to let you do a custom date range. This is pretty much it. Most people keep it on all. We do have a few customers, though, that have an extremely large number of work orders. Right now, the queue for performance sake, the queue is limited to 200 work orders. We had a couple of customers that had around 1,200 work orders, and it really causes a performance decrease on FieldHawk. So plus the fact you don't want to sit there and have to scroll through that many to find what you're looking for. So it is limited to 200. The little funnel, it's the filter icon. It lets you come out here to select none. Then we can, if we just want to see meter change outs, we can do that, and there are none. So maybe your techs take the work orders by job type, and they might want to come out here and filter it by only the job types that they worked on. So let's change it back to all so that we can see them all, our test ones. So that's pretty much this screen, the work order availability screen. So once they submit it, then they'll come over here and go to the My Work Orders screen. So we can see the one that I just submitted a while ago, 31764, and I've already got, I put a few test ones in there earlier, so we'd have some to play around with. The work order queue downloads, let me go into settings here real quick and show you. The server polling interval here. Generally, you want to just keep that set on 1 minute as soon as possible. So while you're in the work order availability queue, I'm just backing up a little bit here. Let me take a couple more of these. We'll click submit, and they're gone from the queue. However, they will not immediately appear in My Work Orders because it only polls every 1 minute or whatever you have that set to. So sometimes the techs will submit them and then come in here and click refresh, and it will not appear. And that is how it's designed. There's some programming reasons that it's designed like that. So they'll just have to be a little bit patient and wait. And so while we're waiting here, they should come in eventually here. Well, we can move on. Whichever work order you see that you want to work on, or okay, there they are. The ones that, so we've got 6 total in there now. So you can select the one you want to see and click review. It's going to let you see all the details of that work order, that one particular work order. The things they can change. They can actually come in here and change the start date, the start time. That's one thing I want to point out. In Impreza, on the work order screen under status, if you do not put an appointment start time, then every work order will show 12 a.m. for the start time. You've got all your account information over here. This is actually, it's locked down where the techs can't actually change this information. Generally, you wouldn't want them changing the customer information out in the field on a work order that was created back in the office. Just scroll down a little bit. You've got your meter information. If you were here, they can edit, put in a new reading. And it gives the new read date. If you want to assign labor to it, I'm going to put myself in there, put an hour. We'll accept that. And then you've got stock equipment. You can add in all those things. Down at the very bottom is where the tech can type in their notes. And this, I want to point out, this is the same notes field as this. So one thing I do want to point out though, once the field tech has taken the work order into their queue, you can no longer edit this notes. We've had a couple of instances where they were trying to use it, I guess, almost as like a messenger back and forth, where they wanted to type in notes that would appear on the tablet for them real time, but it will not do that. Once they've taken it, then their notes are what overrides. So let's scroll back to the top here. You've got your shopping list, which if there's any parts or anything that you need that were already assigned to the work order, that would appear here, and you can use it. I don't know how useful this is, honestly. I don't think that anyone uses it that much, but it's there if you wanted to, so that they would know what parts they needed on the truck that day. Okay. And you've got a couple of other options here. Some customers have company-defined fields. Once again, back in Impreza, you've got company-defined. I created this one as a sample, just to show you how it would appear. And it's just a checkbox, on or off. But the company-defined fields you would have set up already through development, would have to have those set up for you. So, and then attachments. Click on attachments, add media. So you can either take a picture with the tablet, you can select the image you already have taken through the camera app on the tablet, or you can upload a video, and it will attach. And once they submit the work order back into Impreza, it will be attached to permanently attached to that work order. However, it will take up room in your database. So the more photos and things that you attach to work orders and send back in, the larger your database is going to grow. So that's something you'll have to decide for yourself. You know, if you've got unlimited space, then it may not be that big of a deal to you. So to get back to the work order, you can either swipe or use the options there at the top to change back and forth. And so once they complete the work order, they'll just come over here, close it, and then click Submit. And it will disappear from their My Work Orders queue. Excuse me. And probably once a day, I don't know I was talking to someone the other day, and they didn't actually process their work orders every day. She only did it once or twice a week. But inside of the remote work order review screen is where you come to see the work orders that have been submitted back by your field techs. So once you get in here, click preview. So we can see the one that I just submitted back in, and the completion date that it's going to put on it is the date that it was submitted back. So you've got your options here. Most people use those three options. If you check the process reading work orders during apply, then it will actually take the readings and put an entry into reading maintenance and create a reading maintenance file for you. And most people don't want that automatically done for them. They would rather go and create it themselves to have control over it. So I'm going to uncheck those two just to leave them in there. Let's go ahead and process the one that I just submitted back, work order 31764. Going to apply. And it brings up my report, and it shows you notes from FieldHawk, what I typed in there. And if we come back to work orders and refresh it, yeah, it does. It shows closed just as it should. We go back to details. And the notes screen, the notes are there. Hi, Becky. I'm sorry. Hey, Maureen.
Yes, Jeff, you can keep going. Thank you.
Oh, keep going. Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I wasn't familiar with that. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So that is pretty much the workflow of how the work orders come into FieldHawk, what they see when they take them, and then how they submit them back. Now, a couple of things I want to point out here on the My Work Orders screen. You've got these options, and as we saw earlier, if they have the option to delete. And if I delete one that was created in Impreza, it looks like it deleted, but the next time it checks, it appears right back here. So the field techs cannot actually delete a work order. So you guys back in the office don't have to worry about that. They cannot actually delete a work order and get rid of it. However, what they can do if they don't want a work order in their queue, they'll click abandon, refresh, and see that it's gone. So if we come back into work order availability, we see it went to 7, and it just puts it back in the queue for someone else to take. So let's go back into my work orders one more time. The last thing I want to show you in here is new. They can create a brand new work order. Say they're out in the field and something comes up that needs doing right then. They can create a new work order, highlight it, go into review, We're just going to pick. I don't know why. I'm not sure if that would ever be a thing, emergency flushing or whatever, but I just picked that for example. They can come out, search for the address. So you can see that the distance is a little bit far off because I'm using this emulator. Let me get back into it. Because I'm using the emulator, it doesn't, the GPS does not accurately, it can't tell where I'm at right now. So unfortunately, I can't really accurately show you that part. What it should do is automatically go to this, but I have to kind of search on the globe there to find my work order. So we'll keep drilling down. Okay, and it shows our work order there. So if I double click on it, we can actually, you can actually pull up that work order to view it. Also, if they get to a location that is not geocoded, they can stand over the meter and do an update with GPS. Hit the locator button, which mine is not going to work. You'll have to excuse that. Normally, it would carry you right to where you're at, and you would click OK, and then it would update with the current location that you're at. So that's pretty much the My Work Orders queue. Oh, one other thing. So work orders that you create yourself, they don't have a work order number until they're submitted back into the office. And once it's created there, it'll assign it a new work order number. This is where the delete button on the tablet comes in. They can delete work orders that they've created themselves. So if you click delete, it's gone, and it's permanently gone. We saw a little bit of the map screen. So on the map screen, you're going to see, here's your options over here. You're going to see your work orders. You can filter what you see by job code type. You can also, in a real life situation, if you click on crew, you would see where other crew members are based on their GPS location. And then you've got a few options here. You can turn on hybrid view to see the geographic terrain. The auto center will auto center the map when you click on a work order. The available work orders, you'll see they don't have an actual wrench by them, so they're not assigned to you, but they're available to be taken. So we click on one of them and look at it and say, yeah, I'm nearby that one. So we can It'll carry us to the work order available queue. We can take it, submit it, and it'll put it in our queue. So that's basically how the maps function works. And those 3 items, honestly, that's the 3 items that they're going to use all the time. Settings, as I said, you never have to mess with these. It should auto-connect when you come into FieldHawk. Diagnostics, you would only use this when doing some troubleshooting. Sometimes I'll ask you to come in here and do a send diags for me. You just put in a description, and I'll give you an incident number, and you'll click accept, and it will upload all the log files to our server so that we can take a look at it, usually for development to look at. Okay. Okay. And that is pretty much FieldHawk for the on the tablet and what they use. So I wanted to go over a couple of frequently asked questions here. For those that do not have FieldHawk, or if you are currently an iRemote user, how long does it take to implement FieldHawk if I purchase it? So the best case scenario, it would be about 2 months before you could actually go live with FieldHawk. And that's due to the fact that you have to purchase the hardware. We have to do some training, and of course we want you to thoroughly test it and be comfortable with it before you actually go live. Another question that we get asked, can we do an actual meter change out in FieldHawk? At this time, you cannot. That's a feature that development's working on, and one day, I'm not sure what version that's going to happen in, but they are actively working on that. So at some point in the near future, you'll be able to actually, the tech will be able to do the meter change out on the tablet. We went over this already. Is there a limit to the number of work orders that can be sent into FieldHawk? Currently, it's 200 due to performance reasons. So for most customers, that's plenty. I was recently asked the question, what about when they do meter change outs and have, 1,500 work orders at a time? So another thing that development is working on actively is a meter change out, screen for FieldHawk that would be specifically for meter change outs. And occasionally I've been asked also, is my iRemote data compatible with FieldHawk? Do I have to convert or anything like that? No, it's the exact same data, same database. FieldHawk points to your Oasis database just the same as iRemote and Impreza or ICIS. They all use the exact same data and database. So, and that's about it for the presentation.
We didn't receive any questions in our chat box yet, but Jeff, what I will do, first of all, thank you so much for going over this, and then I'm going to unmute everyone, and if you have a question, we would love to hear it and be able to answer it. Does anyone have a question? Want to ask it? Yeah.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
I can.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, I didn't have a question. I was just curious if you could hear me.
We could. It worked. Does anyone else have a question that they'd like to ask?
Yes?
Go ahead.
Okay. So typically the way we operate here is in the office, we schedule the appointments, but we don't schedule which employee is going to do the appointments. Their supervisor schedules that part. So my question was, if in the original work order screen, if the office employees just scheduled it to group, and then in the work order availability screen, would the meter shop supervisor be able to go in and individually assign it to who he wants to do the work orders?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. And let me bring that back up and show you here. Oh, I pulled up a closed one. Oh, sorry. Let me. $31,762. Okay, so this doesn't work if you assign it to a work group. Inside of FieldHawk, the assignment column is only going to show, it doesn't show work group assignment. It only shows if it's assigned to an employee. However, that doesn't actually put it into their work order queue. If the supervisor wants, say, this work order to specifically go to me, Jeff Harris, it goes directly into his queue. All they have to do is come up here to Locked By, choose J8 or my username, save it, and we come back out to FieldHawk, we refresh, and it's gone. And we go to my work order queue and do our little wait here, and it will, and there it is. So it directly goes into my queue. So the supervisor can, in that way, directly assign work orders to employees.
So, okay, so he has to do it right from the original work order that we've already created. He'd have to go back to that work order to do it.
Yeah, correct. He can't do it from the tablet.
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise it's up to the tech to take the correct work order on the tablet. We actually have one new customer, and their tablets are not assigned based on users. They have generic accounts based on function, like one username is for turn on, turn offs, and that person does every turn on, turn off. It's function based instead of user based. So, but not everybody works like that. So.
Is there a way to create a batch work order? For example, we check low consumptions on numerous accounts within a section, and like, let's just say we have 20 to check. Is there a way to create a batch work order with each individual address, or do we have to create an individual work order for each address we want checked?
I'm pretty sure you'd have to create a work order for each one.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you do it through, say, like, I know lock services, it will automatically generate the work order for everyone on the lock list.
Okay.
Let me pull up job type maintenance here. And the job processes that you can assign a work order to automatically create are here. So change outs, installs, reading, adjustment, lock, unlock. So yeah, for other items, you would have to create a work order for each one.
Okay, wonderful. Well, again, thank you all for joining us, and I will be sending out a link to the recording of this. Our next webinar is going to be May 10th, and it's going to be on billing basics. So thank you again for joining us, and we hope you guys all have a great day.